there. Happy day. Today we're going to be cooking chicken and gnocchi. We're going to be using gluten-free gnocchi, so this recipe will be gluten-free. You'll want to be careful if you're strictly cooking gluten-free because some gnocchi has wheat in it. Gnocchi is kind of like a pasta, only it's potato-based, so it kind of becomes fluffy clouds of potatoes. And I find that kids really love this recipe. Adults love it as well. This comes from Whole Foods, but you can find it at your local grocery, I'm sure. We're gonna have gnocchi. We're gonna cook some chicken in the Instant Pot. We're gonna add carrots, celery, and onions, and a broth sauce. And that's gonna be our dinner. You can serve it as a soup if you wanna add more broth. You can serve it as just a main dish if you want less broth and add a veg. I'm gonna use chicken thighs today, but you could use tenderloins, you could use chicken breasts, you could use a rotisserie chicken, or you could use a whole chicken that you cook in the Instant Pot. Whatever you decide is awesome. All right, I threw my chicken in the Instant Pot. It's gonna cook for about 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna set it aside to cool. Oh, now you hear it beeping. Next, we're gonna start with chopping up our vegetables. Like I said, today we're gonna use celery, onions, carrots. If you decide that you want to use other vegetables, you could throw corn in here, you could throw spinach in here, you could really throw about anything. Mushrooms would be good, but today we're going to work on these three vegetables. So we're going to start by chopping, and you can slice, you can cube, you can do whatever you want. You're going to want to take your carrots and your celery, go ahead and wash them, and then we'll start chopping. Some people peel their carrots, some people don't. I'm choosing not to peel my carrots today, but I did give them a good scrub. And you can quarter your carrots, you can do them in rounds, whatever your kids and your family prefer. I'm just gonna chop up into rounds, and then we'll start with the celery. We're going to do after we cut up the vegetables is we're going to throw them in some olive oil and cook them down for about 5 minutes. And like I said, I just decided to use carrot rounds. We're going to get these going in a pan on the oven. We'll throw them all in at the same time. Depending on how many vegetables you want to throw in, this can really be flexible amount. I'm using today about 3 stalks of celery, and I'm going to use 3 carrots and half an onion. The last of our carrots. I think one might have gone flying, but that's okay. Now we'll start on our celery. I always cut the ends off about the last inch, and I always cut just a little bit off the top. These are flexible as well. You can make thick slices, or if you don't want a lot of crunch and texture in this dish, you can make them a lot thinner. I probably did mine about 1/4 of an inch. Once you get down to these bigger ends, you can always cut them in half and keep slicing. Then we'll move on to our onions. If you guys have one of those fancy choppers, you could also use that as well. Now would be a great time. We're going to throw that in. And then I'm going to be using a white onion. You could use a yellow onion. This actually might even be a yellow onion, but whatever type of onion you have in the fridge is awesome. And like all the other vegetables, you can slice this up how you want. I usually use bigger pieces of onions because they cook down into almost nothing. I'm going to be using olive oil to cook my vegetables in today, but you could use butter, avocado oil. It's really up to your preference. So here we go. Chop away. And we're just gonna dump this in. I have all my vegetables chopped up in a pan. Throw some olive oil on top. And then you want to set it on the stove top and cook for about 5 minutes. While the vegetables are cooking, you can go ahead and throw your spices on. You can use just an Italian mix of herbs. Today I'm going to throw on rosemary, oregano. For a little kick, I'm going to do some red pepper flakes and some garlic. You'll want to use about half of a teaspoon of each one, and then you can keep seasoning to your taste. So go ahead and throw that on. If you're like me, I just kind of throw some spices on, but you can go ahead and measure as well. Like I said, about half a teaspoon, unless you're going to use the red pepper flakes. You don't, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon will be plenty. We'll give that a stir. We'll cook these down for about 5 to 10 minutes till they're just a little, they still have a little crunch to them, because they'll continue cooking once we make our broth. You can also throw some black pepper on it as well. And we'll reserve the salt till the end. We're going to make this into not really a soup, so there'll be a little bit less broth. We're going to be throwing our gnocchi in after we get our broth going. This specific gnocchi is gluten-free. You want to make sure if you're cooking for gluten-free folks that this actually says gluten-free, because sometimes we'll throw wheat in there. Gnocchi is a potato-based, kind of like a pasta, and it's delicious. And it's perfect for kids and families that can't have gluten. This came from Whole Foods, but I'm sure you can get it at your local supermarket. After those cook down, we're gonna put chicken broth, and you can already do boxed chicken broth. I use this organic Better Than bouillon. You'll have to be careful if you're celiac. This is made in a facility where they do make other wheat products. There's no wheat in there, but it's never been tested for wheat for celiac, so just be careful. I use this because it's really constituted, and so I can change the depth of flavor with how much chicken base I put in there. It's kind of like just a goo. You can see that we're cooking down the carrots and the celery and all of our herbs, the onions. Start to smell really good. We'll give that a couple more minutes before we make our broth, and then we'll throw our chicken and our gnocchi in. Once our vegetables are done cooking, we're going to throw about 2 to 3 cups of water in there, or chicken broth. Like I said, I'm going to use the constituted chicken broth base, and I'll put it in there and make my own. But if you're using boxed broth, you want to put about 2 to 3 cups. I think these vegetables are about good, so I'm going to throw my water in there. I was about a cup short, so I'm going to get a little bit more water. We'll throw in there. Then we'll get the chicken base. If you want a close up, this is what Better Than bouillon. And it's like I said, you can throw in as much as you want, and it's very flavorful. All right, here's how we're coming on our vegetables, if you can see. And I just have them in water, because I'm gonna add the broth base. You're probably gonna want a couple tablespoons. And this just can melt right into your water and it creates a chicken broth. At the end, if you feel like it needs a little more flavor, you just throw more in. Put about 1 more tablespoon in there. And make this as a beef broth as well. So I always have both of these on hand. All right, we're gonna stir this around. We're gonna take our chicken out of the Instant Pot and shred it up. We'll throw the shredded up chicken in here, add the gnocchi, and then we're done. The chicken has just a couple more minutes, so while it's waiting, I just wanted to let you know, since my channel is new, about 15 years ago, I had had several children and I was just getting really sick. I didn't know what was wrong, and eventually I found out that I had Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disease, and one of the things that they recommended was to eliminate gluten, which helped a lot with inflammation in my body and made me feel a lot better. But there was definitely a learning curve to cook gluten-free for me. I cooked with gluten for the rest of my family. But several years ago, probably about 6 years ago, one of my 6 kids started developing severe allergies. And so we went and ran tests. We did the antibody test. And one of the unfortunate allergies was gluten. And so then I had to start cooking for him as well. And I figured, you know what? I don't have time to cook 2 meals all the time. Why don't I just figure it out how to make really good meals that a family of 8 would enjoy that don't have gluten? So it's been a bit of a journey and we're figuring it out. And the fun thing and the great thing is that my son has outgrown his gluten allergy. And so we can be a little bit more lenient. And if there's something that I want to cook for my family that I don't need to eat, I don't have to cook with gluten. All right, we're to the point where we're going to throw in our gnocchi. Like I said, this is gluten-free gnocchi. Make sure you find gluten-free if you have gluten-free folks. I think I mentioned earlier, I got this at Whole Foods. You can get them in a couple different sizes. This is the mini size, but they also come in a bigger size. And I find that gnocchi is a good base for a lot of different things. You can use it with beef flavored things. You can use it with chicken flavored things. It's just a good thing to always have in your fridge. So we're gonna dump these in and let them start cooking while we shred our chicken. And then once we put our chicken on here, you can have a choice. I usually throw some heavy cream on top and it becomes a creamy, rich broth base. If you're dairy free, you could use coconut milk or you can just skip this all together. Either way, it's great. All right, so the chicken has been cooked. I got it off the bone. I chopped it all up into pieces. Like I said, I use thighs. You can use any chicken that you want. Thighs are dark meat and they tend to be a little bit more juicy, I think. So I chopped it up. I'm gonna just dump it in with everything else. And we'll give the dish a stir and dinner is ready. I mentioned it earlier, if you want to throw some Parmesan cheese on top, that's always good. And then you can salt to taste once you've thrown everything together. Just see what you think with as far as salt content goes. I'll give you a look and see how it turned out. It's delicious. All right, enjoy.